What's up, y'all? Hope y'all doing well. Hope y'all blessed. We back with another video. I want to spin back and harp on time. I talked about it in a previous video about a week ago, and I want to drive the message home again today. With it, I feel like we get in this notion or this mind frame sometimes that we can just push these things off, like push it to the back burner, especially if you're somebody in your circle or your family that is already healthy and is already moving, and you don't remove yourself from that lens or that perspective. You're like, you don't realize it. I'm like, a lot of people around us don't have the healthiest habits. It's not from a place of judgment, it's more of a place of love and care, and like looking up and be like, oh shoot, you're putting yourself at risk of all cause mortality conditions, cardiovascular issues, metabolic issues, diabetes, needing to be dependent on somebody else in older age. These are the kind of things that we don't think about or we're not super fixated on now, but this is how we have to play the game. I get it. There's not a crazy appeal to it. It doesn't sound super sexy. You're just hearing constant stories of doing the same thing over and over again, being really sore, having to really be dialed in on nutrition and fueling yourself properly, getting a ton of sleep, not watching anything, feeling like you're super rigid and you got to be a robot. But that's like only one side of the token or extreme. You can still be healthy and do quite a few things that you enjoy, but it ultimately does take you being decisive and understanding that this is your lifestyle. And to me, there's going to be bias, but I think for the population or the people that do hone in on this and find their rhythm, I think there's a ton of appeal. I mean, right now you get to feel better, look better, in clothes, without clothes. You get to have more freedom in your movement, your motion, whatever the case is. I think that's liberating and freeing. You can go on vacation, not feel out of breath walking, from one stop to the next. You can go on this excursion and climb or hike up a hill and not feel like you need to be left back. You know what I'm saying? Like, you get to see wonders of the world. So that's even in the now. On top of being independent, being able to do what you need to do, being able to think clearly, speak comfortably at whatever phase and age, being able to get, a pen off the ground. We don't think about these things now in our 30s, 40s, 50s, but we have our parents and great grandparents, and we see it. And you can see, of course, there's certain conditions, certain things that may be hereditary, but a lot of the time it's more surroundings and environment and the consistent habits and actions that led up to where they are at that moment. So all that to say, looking at the entire totality of just going back to the week, it's really important to know that you have the ability to change today. I feel like sometimes we get super bogged down and we hold this identity to, well, I haven't done it in the past, my schedule's only getting busier and busier. My first thought goes to, it's never going to be a perfect situation or a perfect schedule ever. So if you can find a way to master this phase, this season now, imagine when it does actually get lighter. But the thought is, don't anticipate or wait for it to get lighter, because you're waiting for a myth. It's just not happening. So I look at it in that way. Ultimately, once you get to the point where you're just decisive and you take action, you just understand that this is your lifestyle and you are going to have to sacrifice and you cut out certain things, you're already initiating, or I can't say halfway into the battle because there's still a ton of work that needs to get done, but you've already taken such a huge step to where everything else is going to feel much lighter. And honestly, that's where it comes back into your behavior, your personality, your preferences, your experiences, and your story. You're going to have to understand who you are, learn more about who you are and who you're trying to become. I say that to say some people may have a all or nothing, 0 to 100, balls to the wall kind of mentality. And sometimes they may have to learn to scale back because they're the type of person that goes from doing nothing for 3 years and then they want to go to 100. And in order for them to have sustainable results and see it for the long term and not have themselves injured and not available, they'll have to do it incrementally. And maybe even during majority of the phases, it could be, raising newborns, it could be working multiple jobs, it could be getting a promotion and working crazy schedules, crazy hours to where you're up in the middle of the night. You may not have a dedicated 1 hour, 70-minute workout 4 times a week. That's just maybe not your reality, but it doesn't mean do nothing. It does not mean do nothing. I know to the brain, it's like, that's the only way society or influencers or social media has presented working out. It's like, okay, I use the example of if you have the 3 hours, sure. You could space that out throughout the entire week. Obviously, there's more statistics that are gonna show for a certain amount of time and it's gonna be closer to the 60 seconds. But if you're doing 15 minutes and you could do that twice a day and you do those 2 sessions a day, 3 times a week, that's still better than the 0 you were doing. It's a message I've repeated in even other videos, but I'm going to repeat it again. It's called minimum effective dose. Do what you can with that time that you have. Hit whatever muscle groups, tissues necessary. Hit them fairly close to failure, pushing yourself to create the adaptation. You're still gonna see results. Of course, as you get more time, as it's ingrained in your lifestyle, you can allocate to more things. You have access to more equipment. You are dedicated to this. You've learned, certain movement patterns. You feel more confident in these things. Sure, can that progress to 30, a 45-minute workout, a 60-minute workout? Sure, you can recover from it, awesome. But I'm just mentioning, just start with just one hit at the tree. I'm not talking haymaker, home run, try to knock the tree down in one hit. Just one chip away at the tree, and then just daily. Even if you have 10 to 15 minute pockets, I'm serious. I programmed this for people with newborns that are taking turns waking up. One's going to sleep, one's waking up. And it's like, okay, well, it's 4 a.m. and I've already been on, maybe 3.5 hours of sleep. And I know I'm not gonna get that much more consistent sleep. Of course, you wanna be rested and feel like you're present and ready to lift weight. But if that's what you got, that's what you got. And they still felt better. Help with their circulation, help with their energy, help them sustain that energy throughout the day, help them feel a little bit better about themselves. If that's what you got, that's what you got. But you gotta work with what you have. That's all it comes down to is work with what you have. If you're anticipating for this better scenario, better situation, you're gonna just be waiting. That's just really what it is. You're gonna be waiting, and then you're gonna wait till, now you have medications that it's needed for you to take. Here's the prescription that you're gonna need to take for the rest of your life. Or here's the hospital bill that's gonna cost thousands every quarter of the year. I'd rather invest that money and that time to work on me now. Both, it's a cliche, both are hard. Either the hard of being, you need to depend on people, pay for medication for a very long time, and feel immobile, or deal with a little bit of soreness. Soreness isn't the only metric to base your training, but be a little bit sore, be pretty uncomfortable frequently, be pretty, I'm not gonna use the word rigid, but be pretty structured to where you don't falter that often. You have your days, you maybe have 1 or 2 days, but you're not going weeks or months of just falling off the rail. This is what you do and who you are. And I don't mean it in the sense of an identity to, once again, going from 0 to 1,000 and you're extremely rigid and you don't know anybody. Like, you can't go out, you can't have a burger here and there, whatever the case is. You figure out what that is for you. But also at the same time, you will have to just be content with living an 80-20 lifestyle. Of course, that's gonna be still tailored to you, but you're gonna figure out a way to where a huge majority of the time you're just staying on the ball. And that 20% is not you going completely off the deep end. It's you just having things in moderation, and you're right back within your structure. The systems don't fail. So that's all I have for today. I really want y'all to sit with that information. But regardless of sitting with the information, that's cool. Take action. I want you to actually implement these things. Even if you don't know what you're doing, Google, YouTube, you can look at some of the content that I have posted. I have tons of exercise demos. If you need an explanation, ask in the comments of the video. But take action, do it. Every facet of your life will improve because of it. If you continuously put it on the back burner, it's going to show up in some way and it's gonna rear its ugly head. And it doesn't need to. Start now, like literally start now. Everything is going to improve. I promise you, from the relationships in your life with your spouse or partner, with your kids, with your coworkers, you are going to be slower to anger. You're going to be sharper. You're going to be less foggy. You're going to be able to make decisions clearer. You're going to feel better circulation throughout your body. Your clothes are going to fit you better. You're going to have higher self-esteem and better confidence. Like, every facet is going to improve. All these things are then going to transfer into you even making more money. I just want to remind you, just take action now. Stop putting it off. That's all I got. Like, comment, subscribe. Hope y'all enjoyed. I'm going to catch y'all next time. Peace.